Good evening. Due to COVID-19, this meeting will be conducted as a Zoom webinar pursuant to the provisions of the Governor's Executive Order N-2920, which suspends certain requirements of the Brown Act. This meeting is being webcast on Comcast TV Channel 15 and live streamed on the city's YouTube channel at https://www.youtube.com/user/City of Hayward and on the city website at https://hayward.legistar.com/calendar.aspx. The mayor will call upon members of the city council, city staff, and other speakers by name and ask that they state their names before giving comments or remarks. Individuals participating via Zoom with their cameras enabled are reminded that their activities are visible to viewers. City council members and members of the public participating by Zoom wishing to speak should use the raise hand feature, and the mayor will call upon them at the appropriate time. Members participating via teleconference wishing to speak should dial *9, and they will be called upon by the last 4 digits of their phone number. It is requested that public speakers state their names and organizations, but providing such information is voluntary. Written public comments received by email at list-mayor-council@hayward-ca.gov, city clerk at hayward-ca.gov, or via e-comment by 3 p.m. will be distributed to the city council and staff, published on the city's meeting and agenda center under documents received after published agenda, and entered into the record. Documents received after 3 p.m. through the adjournment of the meeting will be included as part of the meeting record and published the following day. A roll call vote will be taken for all action items. In order to get the full Zoom experience, please make sure your application is up to date. Public members wishing to speak with the City Council can send an email to list-mayor-council@hayward-ca.gov or cityclerk@hayward-ca.gov.
And with that, I would like to call this meeting of the Hayward City Council to order, and I will ask Council Member Elisa Marquez to please lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance.
Thank you, Mayor. Please rise. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you.
Thank you. Now, Madam City Clerk, would you please call the roll?
Yes, Madam Mayor. Good evening. Councilmember Andrews.
Present.
Councilmember Lamnin.
Present.
Councilmember Marquez.
Present.
Councilmember Salinas.
Present.
Councilmember Wahab.
Here.
Councilmember Cermeño.
Present.
Mayor Halliday.
Here.
Thank you.
Thank you. With that, I will ask our City Attorney, Mr. Lawson, to give us a report or an announcement on the closed session that was held prior to this meeting.
Greetings, Mayor and Council. The closed session convened at 5:30. There were 2 items on the agenda. The first item dealt with labor with all groups and with all council members present. There was no reportable action. The next item, with Mayor Halliday recusing herself and 6 other members present, dealt with parcel group 6 in the Route 238 right-of-way. The council discussed and took no reportable action. That completes the report, Mayor Halliday.
Thank you. That brings us to public comments this evening. This is your opportunity to comment on any items not otherwise on our agenda this evening. And I will go ahead and open the public comment period and ask, I see we have some attendees, but I don't see any hands raised. Madam City Clerk, are you aware of anyone wanting to make a public comment? I see a hand.
Yes, there's one person already.
Looks like Meredith Walker.
Okay, perfect.
That's not the name on the, okay.
All right. Okay, please go ahead.
Hello? Is this Geraldine Harvey?
Can you still hear me?
Yes.
Okay.
Oh, Meredith Walker. Yes. Oh, I'm sorry. That's it. That's the timer, isn't it? Sorry. Okay. Meredith Walker. Thank you. Go ahead.
Okay. Again, thank you, Mayor Halliday. My name is Meredith Walker. I'm a resident of Mission Crossing, and I'm just reaching out to the council again regarding the issue of a walkway on Toronto Street for the residents. We've come to a number of the council members asking that you would speak with the builders of the Mission Crossing condominiums so that we have a separate way of getting in and out of our facility. Even last night, there was police activity over on Berry Street. So we, as the residents, we could not enter or exit. And this is not the first time like something of this has happened. We understand that the builders are saying that because the city won't allow them to continue to build the condominiums, they won't open up the additional access to us. We as residents do not necessarily want the city to give in to the builders and allowing them to build the rest of their condominiums and sell them without that commercial property that was supposed to be built on before they could finish their, the homes. But we are asking the city council to not command, but just to really stress the importance to the builders why we need this walkway. Berry is not one of the best neighborhoods. And right now we only have 10 parking for 100 condominiums. We are asking for just access to the street where we can come in and out walking, not even driving, from Toronto Street into our property. We feel that it would be a safer option for us. It also gives us a second entrance and exit should there be something going on Berry Street again where we're not allowed in or out. And we're just asking, we've been asking this now for a while. I've lived here for a year myself. I've spoken with other members who've been here longer. We are asking for a fast resolution to getting us access to Toronto Street through a walkway, point blank, period. Thank you very much.
Thank you. And I know that this is being worked on. I'm going to ask our city manager, Ms. McAdoo, if she has any comments in response.
Yeah, thank you, Mayor. And we are, I think there's some feedback. Ms. Walker, thanks. Street Clerk. So what we are working on is we are still in talks with the developer, and unfortunately the residents of this neighborhood are caught in the middle of the developer not meeting some of the conditions of approval of the project. And so we have been meeting as a staff team to try and figure out if there's a way to give temporary access to the, as the residents have requested. We will be having some meetings later this week to figure out how and if we can do this. And so we should be notifying residents, or probably some of the ones that have reached out to us, by early next week of what the outcome is. If you have not provided your contact information, you can, the list mayor council email, you can send an email to that. I will get copied on that. And then that way we'll have your contact information and we can make sure to follow up with you. And I think, and maybe, I don't know if it's hard on Zoom, we can't get we can't get public comment, contact information. So I'll just encourage anyone who has a concern about this particular topic to send an email to I think it's list-mayor-council@hayward-ca.gov with your contact information, and then we'll follow up from there.
All right, thank you. And I know we're all anxious to see this, see improvement in this situation. And thank you for the comment. I don't see any other hands raised from the public at the moment. I do see Councilmember Marquez wishing to make a comment.
Thank you, Mayor. If not today, maybe for our next meeting, would it be possible just to have a graphic that has the listserv email address just always shown on the screen, especially during public comments, just to make it really easy for the public? Thank you.
It's a good idea. Thank you. Okay, and seeing no one else with their hands raised, we will close public comments and move on to our action items this evening. We have a consent calendar with 5 items on it, and items 1 through 5. I will note that item number 1, both item numbers 1 and 2 are approval of minutes. 1 is the minutes from the January 26th meeting. The number 2 is the minutes from the February 2nd meeting. I know that there were corrections submitted for the January 26th meeting, so you should have all gotten those. So any motion should include those corrections. So do I have okay, Councilmember Wahab.
I'll move the item with the corrections.
Are you moving the entire consent calendar?
Yes.
Yeah. Okay. And Councilmember Marquez?
I'll second, Mayor. Thank you.
Okay. Moved by Councilmember Wahab, seconded by Councilmember Marquez, items 1 through 5. On the motion, Madam City Clerk, will you call the roll?
Yes, Madam Mayor. And I don't see any request to speak on those items.
Yeah.
So I don't see that. So Councilmember Andrews.
Aye.
Councilmember Lamnin.
Aye.
Councilmember Marquez.
Yes.
Councilmember Salinas.
Yes.
Councilmember Wahab.
Yes.
Councilmember Cermeño.
Yes.
Mayor Halliday.
Yes. So those items are approved unanimously with a 7-0 vote.
I have a quick question, if I may.
Yeah. Councilmember Cermeño.
Item, the one on the pavement, and that is number
4, I believe. No.
number 4. No, number 2, number 3.
Yeah, 3.
Can I share some of those maps? A couple of people have asked me what streets are they shareable or public? Are they public information? Those maps?
Absolutely.
Yes.
Okay. Thank you very much.
Okay. Now, moving on, and I just want to say for the record that for anyone who is here regarding item number 7, labeled the Switzer residence, adoption of a resolution approving a proposed single-family residence and attached accessory dwelling unit on vacant land on Home Avenue. If you're here for that item, that item is being continued to March 2nd, to our meeting of March 2nd. So that will not be heard this evening. Okay, so back to item number 6 is the adoption of the Shoreline Master Plan. And so I think we are, let's see, it says, I think we're going to start with Public Works Director Ameri on this one, and he can introduce whoever else. I see other people here.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Eric Pearson, our Environmental Services Manager, is here to introduce the item and also the consultant team. Eric?
Yeah, thank you, Alex. Good evening, Mayor, council members. I'm Eric Pearson, Environmental Services Manager in the Public Works Department. I'm just going to make a few remarks and then turn it over to our consultants who are going to present the plan. Next slide, please. The Shoreline Adaptation Master Plan was prepared by HASPA, the Hayward Area Shoreline Planning Agency. HASPA is a joint powers authority made up of the city, the Hayward Area Park and Recreation District, and the East Bay Regional Park District. Councilmember Marquez is the city's representative on the Board of Trustees. And HASPA was originally established to protect the shoreline from development. But in 2015, the mission was adjusted to focus on planning for sea level rise. Next slide, please. The Shoreline Adaptation Master Plan is a priority project identified in the strategic roadmap, which was approved by council in early 2020. It is also called for in the general plan. Our last presentation on this project was our last presentation to the city council was in May last year. when we presented 3 preliminary design alternatives. We took the feedback from council as well as from many stakeholders and came up with a preferred alternative, which will be presented tonight. Just want to quickly mention that after the packet was published, we did receive a letter of support from Save the Bay, and that letter was distributed to the council earlier today. Before I turn it over to the consultant team, I just want to give a few thank yous. First, I want to introduce and thank Taylor Richard. Taylor is our Climate Corps Fellow, and she's done an amazing job with helping to coordinate the 3 HASPA agencies, as well as the consultant team and preparation of the plan itself. I also want to thank Damon Glubix, our senior planner, who initiated the project and managed it for most of its 2-year lifetime until he retired last year. And then finally, staff from HARD and East Bay Regional Park District made significant contributions through their participation in the Technical Advisory Committee. So at this time, I'd like to introduce Nans Varon and Nick Shannon from SCAPE. SCAPE is the lead consultant who helped us prepare this plan. And I believe Nick is going to take it from here.
Great. Thank you, Eric. And thank you all for having us tonight. Last time we met with you all and with the console was, as Eric was saying, in May. And so tonight we're really glad to actually present the final iteration of the master plan for adoption. So tonight we will start with just a quick reminder and summary of the master plan process and what we've been through over the past 24 months. We will look at some of the spreads and pages from the final document that we will share with you. And finally, we will discuss next steps and implementation. So as I was saying, just looking at the schedule, the master plan study started in February of 2019, so almost 2 years ago to the day. We went through 7 design tasks, starting with the project initiation in 2019 and going all the way to tonight, task 7, with the adoption of the plan. And so I'm going to walk you through some of those steps and some of the things that we've been doing over the last 2 years with the master plan tonight. So we started by creating in early 2019 a background report. So we did an extensive work in terms of analyzing and understanding what are the existing conditions of the shoreline, of the Hayward shoreline today. And so that document has been compiled and shared. It's been widely distributed. It's been reviewed and approved. We also started back then with an online survey. So we engaged, I think, about 1,000 community members and stakeholders in order to really inform the early steps of the master plan itself. And finally, at the beginning of the project back in 2019, we also developed what we call a community outreach plan, which was the kind of strategy to help us and guide us in terms of stakeholder and public engagement throughout the life of the project. Following the existing condition analysis, we worked very closely with our partners at Arcadis, they are coastal engineers, and using the best available science and data available, we've been able to create what we call the sea level rise flood maps. So we looked at 3 scenarios of sea level rise. We looked at a 2-foot scenario, a 4-foot scenario, and a 7-foot scenario. And for each one of them, we've been able to map what will be the potential impacts of sea level rise, both in terms of tidal inundation, so daily flooding, as the tide will go up and down, but also in terms of coastal storm surge, so those rare events that might occur and might create additional flooding and impacts along the shoreline. And finally, we also looked at the potential impacts of groundwater intrusion that will be pushed up by the sea level as it rises. We also, under task 3, undertook a series of meetings and stakeholders events. So we had public and online engagement with 1 online survey at the beginning of the study and 2 public online forum more recently. We've also had throughout the life of a project numerous meetings with various stakeholders. We had what we call stakeholder interviews or stakeholder meetings. We also held 1 public event that we called a short tour in 2019. Another event was supposed to be scheduled in 2020, but given the COVID situation and the pandemic, that event was canceled, and we heavily relied on digital engagement through a website that we built specifically for the project. And finally, on top of that, we had a series of stakeholder workshops, both in person and online, as we had to transition to Zoom in early 2020. And so in total, we had 1 online survey, we had about 13 stakeholder meetings, 3 stakeholder workshops, 1 public short tour, and 2 online public forums. And all of those meetings really informed the development of the master plan and the selection of what ultimately became the preferred scenario. As part of task 4, we also developed the goals for the project and the master plan. And so just to summarize some of those goals, the master plan aims at creating a resilient shoreline for people and ecology. The master plan aims at enhancing the shoreline environment to reduce risk to critical infrastructure and built assets. The master plan also aims at building social resilience in the community. And finally, it aims at building capacity for future generations to adapt to climate change. And so all of those goals really helped us to inform what we call the adaptation responses. So following that goal-setting workshop with local stakeholders and key stakeholders, we really transitioned to creating a catalog of suitable options that would help us to adapt the shoreline to sea level rise and to meet the master plan goals. And so we looked at, I think, more than 40 different adaptation responses in isolation. And eventually, under task 5, we took all of those adaptation responses, and based on the feedback received by many stakeholders and through the various meetings, we created 3 design alternatives, basically 3 options to really think of how the Hayward shoreline will be able to adapt to sea level rise in the future. I think the last time we met, as Eric was saying, we actually presented and discussed those 3 options. If you remember, the first one was closer to the bay, the second one was down the middle, and the last one was further inland. And based on the feedback received during the City Council meeting, based on the feedback received during other meetings and from many stakeholders, we really transitioned to put together the final master plan document. So what has been reviewed in 3 iterations is about almost 250 pages report that has been constantly updated and edited over the last 6 months that presents all the work that has been done as part of the master plan. So from the beginning with the background report, the existing conditions, including the design alternatives, the adaptation responses, and ultimately the preferred alternative. On top of that, we also developed materials to think of implementations, phasing, and really making sure that we will be able to provide almost cut sheets potentially as part of that document for projects to be implemented over time. And we are also attaching to the document 2 appendices. One is a summary and pretty much a report of all the stakeholder and public comments received throughout the process. And another appendix presents the cost estimate for the project. The preferred alternative itself that we've identified throughout that process basically creates a line of protection that in the north ties back to along San Lorenzo Creek here, that runs along the bay's edge in front of the Oroloma wastewater treatment plant, and then wraps around in the back of Oroloma Marsh. In the north, we are looking at restoring and enhancing the marsh habitat within Oroloma, but also restoring Frank's West, that small site north of the landfills as part of that project. We're also identifying opportunities for stormwater management and storage with 2 sites, Frank's East being one, and one portion of the back of Oroloma being the other one. We're also trying to align this alignment of the line of protection with the first mile project that is being led by Oroloma and EBDA, and that is looking at creating an horizontal levee that will be able to push treated effluents from the wastewater treatment plant into the back of the marsh. As we get to the middle section of the shoreline, we are really looking at protecting the landfill's edges from erosion and from wave action with a series of erosion control infrastructures. We are also looking, as we move to the south, at protecting the existing wet weather storage ponds as part of the Hayward wastewater treatment plant behind the line of protection, that here really aligns in the back of Cogswell's Marsh, and then eventually wraps up in the back of the Salt Marsh Harvest Mouse Preserve. On top of that FEMA certified line of protection, we're also looking at creating a temporary levee alignment that will preserve the Salt Marsh Harvest Mouse Preserve from sea level rise, and that will also put the Hayward Interpretive Center behind the line of protection, so on the protected side. In the south, we are looking at reconnecting and restoring marsh habitat with Cogswell's Marsh, Hayward Marsh, Hahn Marsh, and Oliver Salt Ponds being restored as tidal habitat. Finally, in front of those marshes, and to make sure that those edges wouldn't be vulnerable to erosion and to wave action, we are creating and proposing a series of gravel beaches and berms that will really buffer that tidal and marsh habitat from future wave action and future sea level rise. Finally, we are looking at realigning the bay trail over time from its original location to the top of the line of protection in the back. And so we had the honor to submit the final document last week to the HASPA TAC, the Technical Advisory Committee. And so once again, we've been able to submit the Hayward Master Plan, Adaptation Master Plan document itself, and the 2 appendices with the stakeholder and public comments and the cost estimate. Those documents include what we've called the phasing strategy. We understand that the master plan will take many decades to be implemented and to be completed, and so we spent a great deal of time working with our partner and engineers to identify what will be the best phasing strategy, both from a feasibility and permitting standpoint, but also from a funding standpoint. And so we've identified projects for a short-term implementation, medium-term, and long-term implementations as well. We've also created those cut sheets that I mentioned earlier as part of the master plan project. And so what we've done is that we've really been able to try to summarize and to collect a lot of the information about those individual projects to help HASPA and the different member agencies to think about implementation. And so the idea with those cut sheets is that it will be easier for HASPA and the member agencies to go after funding. We are actually making a couple of recommendations in terms of funding and finance. And so we hope that that's a useful tool for all the agencies moving forward. As part of the master plan, we also made policy and programmatic recommendations that we think will be interesting to consider moving forward. Some of those recommendations are more relevant to the city. Others are more relevant to other agencies, including HASPA, BCDC, and the Alameda Flood Control District. Finally, we are also recommending that as the master plan is implemented, we are recommending regional coordination between many of the ongoing projects within the Bay Area. We know that sea level rise is not going to be something that could be solved in isolation. And while we really hope for the master plan to help HASPA and Hayward adapt to sea level rise over time, we also need to acknowledge that being able to work with other municipalities, other agencies across the Bay is going to be needed to guarantee the success of the master plan. And so finally, looking at next steps in implementation. So we spent the last 2 years working on the master plan document, and we think that obviously implementation is going to take many, many more years. And so what we've done as part of that process is really trying to provide HASPA and the TAC with a roadmap to help implementing the project. And so we've been able to make some recommendations for short-term considerations, medium-term and long-term. And what we are recommending is that in the short term, we really try with the master plan to prioritize ecological enhancement and really try to pilot projects. We know that many of the medium-term and long-term projects will need to be monitored before they get fully implemented and fully scaled up. And so we really recommend implementing small pilot projects that will be monitored over time before they get scaled up in the future. In the medium term, we really recommend considering multi-benefit infrastructure. We really think that stormwater management is going to become more critical at that point. And we really think that tidal habitat adaptation through artificial sediment application could really help marshes adapt to sea level rise. It's not something that's going to happen at the end. We really need to help those marshes and those tidal habitat to be prepared for sea level rise. And so that's really something that we think will be important in the medium term. Finally, in the long term, we really recommend completing the full line of protection to reduce the risk of sea level rise, both in terms of daily inundation and flooding, but also in terms of storm event related flooding. So we're looking here at the 1% storm event, and really trying to create a layered system of erosion control. We know, and we've seen in many countries and in many places in the country actually, that those kinds of seawall or very direct approach to flood mitigation often fails. And so we think that what the master plan is actually offering is that flexibility across the landscape and a pretty complex cross-section that will help mitigate the effects of sea level rise and climate change over time. And so that's really what we are looking here with the long-term strategies for the Shoreline Master Plan. And with that, that's pretty much all I had for tonight. And I'm really happy, I would be more than happy to take questions. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Did staff have anything to add to that, or should I go to council questions now?
Just the only comment here is I want to thank Nans for the presentation, and staff's recommendation is for council to adopt the resolution that's attached to the staff report to find the project exempt from CEQA and to adopt the plan. So thank you.
And forgive me if I don't think this is said, but have the other two agencies that we that partnered with us in this plan, East Bay Regional Park District and HARD, have their bodies approved it yet, or are they in the process now?
I believe HARD is presenting it to their board this week. And then East Bay Regional, they presented it to their full board recently. And so this month they're bringing it to one of their board committees. So. Okay.
So I'm just going to ask right now, and I do see we have a couple questions for questions from council. Then we will have public comment, and then we will come back to comments and hopefully a motion and a vote on this item. So right now it's just questions. So Council Member Zermeño.
Thank you, Nans, and thank you, Eric, and thank you, Alex. let's see. There was a map in the past that showed the area with a 4-foot level sea rise. Would you have that anywhere? Did I miss it?
I didn't show it tonight.
Okay,
it's in
right.
the final document. It's in the final
Okay.
master plan.
Okay.
But yeah, that's pretty much the map on the screen right now.
I wonder if I could have a clean copy, separate copy. Okay. All right. So that's question one. And the mayor did take one of my other questions. I was wondering if the other agencies had voted. So apparently they will vote. So we're first. And just a very simple question. Please remind me who Frank is.
That's actually for a question for the locals. We've always called it Frank's West and Frank's East, but I'm not sure where it's coming from.
Okay, we used to have a faculty member at Chabot College named Frank West. So I'm wondering if that was his property, but anyway. Okay, thank you very much. Very, very good job.
Thank you.
Thank you. Councilmember Wahab.
Thank you, Mayor. You know, I'm trying to relate this back to, you know, the previous time that this was presented to council. And I wanted to know, I know that I asked for the most aggressive environmental protections we can pursue. And I just wanted to understand, just from an expert opinion, do you believe that this is the most we can do? If not, what else can we be doing to protect this particular region?
I think that given the parameters and the framework that was set for the master plan, I think it's a very aggressive approach on environmental protection and restoration. I think it's much more ambitious than many other plans that I've seen in the Bay Area. And I think it's a testament to the diversity and the richness of the Hayward shoreline in terms of habitat and species. And that's really something that we've tried to preserve and enhance and advocate for through that plan. And so I really feel confident that, you know, if the master plan is to be implemented as it's presented today, it will really benefit and enhance many of those habitats for many of those species.
And do you believe there's anything else that's left off the table?
Not given, I don't think that that's the case given the parameters we are looking at. I think if the rates of sea level rise tend to accelerate or become much higher than what we've looked at and anticipated, I think some questions that were left off the table for now should be back on the table. And I'm, you know, talking about potential retreat, different types of migration for those habitats, so on and so forth. But I think given the fact that we are really trying to work within and for a 4-foot sea level rise scenario, I think we're really striking a balance here with that plan.
Definitely. And Save the Bay actually sent us a letter this, I want to say the last couple of days, very much in support of this master plan. Did staff by any chance have an opportunity to read it?
Yes, we did.
Okay. And what was staff's response to some of the comments made in that particular letter?
I think we're in agreement. I think that we did a really, good effort of reaching out to all the different stakeholders around the Bay, all the different agencies. And as the letter noted, we did follow the latest guidance from the state in terms of sea level rise projections. And I think it seems to really be in line with the direction that we've seen from the Bay Conservation Development Commission and other state agencies.
Perfect. And one of the requests of the letter was definitely to, for the most part, everything is in agreement. However, they do ask that, we implement any future plans or discussion with a diverse set of constituencies. I'd like to highlight that with not only the Sierra Club, but the Friends of the San Lorenzo Creek, and basically any average resident that would like to partake in this and it'd be elevated. I know that you guys do it and you guys do a great job about it. I just wanted to highlight that. And I have no further questions. Thank you.
Thanks. Councilmember Marquez.
Thank you, Mayor. I just want to thank staff, the former members of HASPA, former member Councilmember Mendel did a lot of work around this. In one of our last HASPA meetings, it was quite clear, and a consultant also mentioned this, that in order for this plan to be effective, we do need regional buy-in and regional coordination. So I'm just wondering, has staff given any more thought to that, and what do you kind of envision in terms of next steps and rolling out the short, mid to long-term plans here?
Yes. So yeah, as noted in the plan, there's each of the projects are going to require coordination with multiple agencies. We've already begun to seek grant funding, and we're talking with our neighbors at the Orloma Sanitary District and also the Alameda County Flood Control District, and working together on the grant application. So, and there is, we've talked a little bit about the possibility of, some kind of more formal relationship or the possibility of adding these agencies to HASPA, but there's still a lot of discussion that needs to happen there around that. But yes, we were definitely in communication with our partners and neighboring agencies.
Great, thank you so much. And I know there was also comments made about coordinating and reaching out to our state legislators in terms of Assembly and Senate to just kind of elevate the discussion on a regional level. So I'd be happy to work with staff on that as well. But thank you for this amazing work. And I know there's more to be done, but this is very impressive. So thank you, everybody who worked on it.
Thank you. I have a couple. One of them is that this plan stops at 92 at the access road to, the San Mateo Bridge. And, we do have continuing shoreline south of that. Are there any plans to look at that area? I know we have, it's a lot of it's natural. There is a housing development out there, as we know, and some industrial area. Are there plans to look at, and is there the need to do that with that part of our shoreline as opposed to this part?
So the main reason we focused north of Highway 92 is the area to the south has been addressed by the federal South Bay Salt Pond Restoration Project, and it has taken into consideration sea level rise, and they went through a full planning process and environmental review, and so we really felt that that there was not a need to address the area to the south at this time.
Okay, and then I'd like to point out there's a in the middle, just east of where the Cogswell Marsh is, there is that area. I think that, yes, that area. So I understand that is sort of a natural elevated but spread out area that is going to somehow work for some natural disposal of some of our treated wastewater from our water treatment plant. And I'm just, but I never was able to figure out, reading through all this, what exactly that snake-like, green line it represents there. Could you just comment a little more on that part?
Yeah, so this graphic is meant to show that there's a possibility that we could build some kind of a treatment marsh to do some final treatment of wastewater before it's discharged to the bay. And we actually just kicked off a study of this concept with EBDA on another, they've got some grant funding, and we're doing this as part of a larger project, but we are going to look into the feasibility of basically converting these storage ponds to a freshwater treatment marsh. So.
And that squiggly line is just supposed to represent that somehow, or?
I think the idea is, the water. Oh, sure. Go ahead, Nance.
No, I was going to say it's just a diagrammatic way to represent the different steps that will be part of that cleaning system. It's definitely not to scale. It's not worked out. It's more the intent than anything else.
Okay, thanks. And then one more kind of, there was a mention of in terms of handling the wastewater treatment plant, there was a reference to water polishing. Can you explain what that is?
So, Eric, do you want to go?
I think it's basically doing the final stages of disinfection and removal of nutrients before the water can be discharged.
Okay, I should know that. I mean, that probably doesn't have that much to do with this. So, with that, I don't. Let's see. I don't see any other. You don't have another question, do you, Council Members Armeno? Okay. So now I'm going to open public comment on this item. I'm not seeing hands raised from any attendees. Madam City Clerk, did we have anyone wanting to make a public comment on the phone on this item?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I'm not aware of anyone requesting to speak on this item.
Okay, well then I'm going to go ahead and close the public comment period and we'll go to Council Member Wahab.
Thank you, Mayor. I really just want to say I appreciate staff's work on this. I personally think that Hayward has done an incredible job on a lot of different environmental policy work and the focus overall. Obviously, I think all of us know that, we as a city, as a state, as a nation can do a lot more, and we should be doing a lot more. But I think that we have done an incredibly great job. Even the feedback from groups that really pay attention and watch this very diligently have been in support of the efforts around this particular plan. I'm happy to move the item, and hopefully I get a second.
I'll go to Councilmember Marquez, our representative on HASPA. Would you like to second the motion?
Yeah, I just want to make sure that the motion includes that we're adopting the resolution and also acknowledging that it's exempt from CEQA.
Yes.
Okay, great.
All right.
And I'll just briefly speak. I know this discussion has been decades in the making, so it's really exciting to finally be at this juncture and just really acknowledge everyone for their leadership, their dedication. I think the community outreach was phenomenal. And at the last HASPA meeting, we talked about how we're going to be targeting monolingual, Spanish-speaking and Asian communities to make sure that they fully understand this plan as it moves into its implementation stage. But thank you to staff and thank you to our amazing consultants and fellow as well. This is really exciting for Hayward. Thank you. And for the entire region, but it's nice to see Hayward, Hart, and East Bay Regional Parks leading on this. Thank you.
Yes, it is. Thank you. Councilmember Andrews.
I just want to thank staff, HASPA, and the consultants. I know this work isn't the work that gets all the fanfare as a building or a recreational facility, but the work that you all are doing protects that and protects our critical infrastructure. And it's such important work. And I just know that I have an aunt who lost everything in Katrina. And then she moved to Baton Rouge, lost everything in Baton Rouge, and had to start all over. So I know climate change is real. I know plans like these are really, really important. And I know the preferred alternative, including not just a built levee, but also working with nature, is so important. And those are the lessons that we've learned from all these natural disasters, is that you have to work with nature in order to adapt and survive. So I just wanted to thank you all for your hard work. And I remember seeing all the notifications and reaching out to the community. I took a survey way back when. So I know it reached me. So I just want to say really good job, and just continue to reach out to the communities who don't have access to this kind of technology in order to stay connected to this kind of work that you're doing, but just translate it in a way that's in layman's terms so they understand that their community could be impacted unless we do something. So that's all I want to say. Thank you.
Great, thank you. Councilmember Lamnon.
Thank you. That was well said, and I will add my appreciation to the staff and the consultant team. You know, this was, as Councilmember Marquez said, really outstanding community outreach and a very elegant balance of the many competing priorities in this area. The working with nature, as Councilmember Andrews said, and really both protecting what's there, planning for the future in a way that balances a lot of competing priorities. So I deeply respect and appreciate the work, and I'm happy to support the motion. I did have a couple of follow-up questions. One, are there any capacity or resource considerations that we need to be brought in as we continue to our conversations around our strategic planning work for the city?
I guess I would say, as far as the strategic roadmap is concerned, you know, this basically completes the Shoreline Master Plan project. Going forward, we're going to be working closely with the other agencies, HARD and East Bay Regional, to implement the plan. And we're going to be having additional conversations with those agencies about, you know, exactly how we're going to go about doing that. So.
Okay, that's fair. So we don't necessarily know what those projects are as yet. It sounds like, other than the ongoing conversations. Is that fair?
Yeah, and I guess I can mention that, you know, the coordination role of HASPA, it rotates every 5 years, and so the East Bay Regional Park District is scheduled to kind of take the reins at the end of 2021. So, you know, I would expect that they're going to be taking on a larger role at that point. So.
Oh, okay. That's good to know. Thank you. I'd lost track of that. And I just want to acknowledge that the president of Orloma is with us this evening. Hello, Rita. Thank you for being here. And my last question is, are there also, I guess this sort of relates to that, so I'll make this just sort of a statement that if there are projects that it's helpful to position for to be shovel ready for future, you know, if stimulus funding becomes available, then I'm interested in, you know, what the city may need to do to help position those projects. Hopefully that made sense. Okay. Thank you.
Yeah, first of all, I want to compliment you on being out there actually on the shoreline right now. Actually, I think, folks, she's not actually there, but she did have the wherewithal to put that background up behind her tonight. So I think we ought to all recognize and applaud that. I think, I'm sorry, what you were just asking before you stopped. I know that one of the big things is resources. You know, that's the big thing is, you know, they've got the plan now, they've got the projects, they need the resources.
I think if I understood what Councilmember Lamnon was asking, is ensuring that we're sort of positioning projects so that if there's stimulus funds that become available or additional federal dollars, they tend to like projects that are shovel ready. So to the extent that we can develop projects in the plan to a point where they are shovel ready and maybe position us better for those federal dollars. Am I capturing what you were asking?
That was spot on. Thank you.
Yeah. And it, you know, having a plan like this, that really puts us out there as, you know, being ready and being a leader in this. Councilmember Zermeño?
Thank you. Thank you again to our presenters and our staff. An excellent job. This is one of our jewels, and we are taking a big step in protecting it. We don't have a beach. We don't have marine world. We don't have snow or winery or mission. That's a bummer, but we have this gorgeous piece. I would encourage whenever you're out there, take some plastic gloves and a plastic bag or some kind of a bag and pick up any litter if you run into it, please. We want to make sure that it's clean. the aspect of this being a regional project is extremely important because we in the city of Hayward are not going to be able to foot the $1 billion price tag that it has. So two things with that we can share the price, the funds with, or the piggy bank with a couple other folks, and to ensure that our share of the $1 billion is not that large. So that's why it's extremely important for us to do that regional planning, regional partnership. So let's start looking for some of those funds. I'm sure there are grants out there. And again, thank you very much. Let's keep protecting our green.
Okay, thank you. If there are no other council comments, I just want to echo what my colleagues have said. And, this really, I think this is a remarkable, you just started this plan 2 years ago. I think it's an enormous amount of work to have completed in 2 years with our partner agencies. And, this is a jewel for Hayward, and I'm proud of us. And, the work didn't start 2 years ago or even in the last, 10 years or so that we've been much more aware of, the possibility of sea level rise and global warming. This started decades ago. Maybe Frank you referred to, was involved in it as well. But, there are people who worked, 50, 60 years ago to help protect and enhance this shoreline and make it the recreational asset that it is now for us. And I will say, council members, Armeno, that, my husband and I really do like to go out there. In fact, during this pandemic, I think he's been going at least once a week. I most of the time can't go with him, but we have hiked out there for years, and you really don't see litter. I think when something is that beautiful and natural, and the people who you have to hike into it to really appreciate it. And that is not a place where people are littering too much, but we'll keep that in mind and make sure we
I have sharp eyes for litter, so I see it where others don't see it. So that's why.
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
I just, I am so grateful for the partnerships. And this is a small section of work that is being done or will be done around the entire Bay. And I recently was part of a focus group from an organization calling itself Bay Adapt. That is, trying to coordinate some of this work. And I think that we really have been a leader. I'm proud of us for just saving the shoreline to begin with, and, having it be in a more natural, when you look at what some other communities have done in terms of they have a lot more to protect, and their plans are probably going to cost a lot more. The money does seem daunting. It's about $1 billion, correct, over for the all, through the whole phase. But, some of that is long-term projects that won't be built for more than 25 years. And I think you did a really good job in that of isolating projects that can be done in the short term, the midterm, and the long term, and, identifying the costs there. And we really are well positioned to get money from the, federal and state governments in the form of grants to complete some of these projects. You can't do it if you don't have a plan and you're not organized. And so I really can't thank you all enough for the people who really worked on this. And it just shows what good partnerships and caring about the natural environment. I appreciate those people who decades ago saw that this shoreline was saved so that generations of school kids in our community could really learn about the wildlife and the animals that live in this area. And I hope that 50 or 60 years from now there will be people thanking us for taking the time to do this plan and seeing it through and saving the shoreline for them too. So with that, thank you everybody. And I think that on the motion by Councilmember Wahab, seconded by Councilmember Marquez. Madam City Clerk, will you do a roll call vote, please?
Yes, Madam Mayor. Happy to do that. Councilmember Andrews.
Aye.
Councilmember Lamnin.
Aye.
Councilmember Marquez.
Yes.
Councilmember Salinas,
Yes.
Councilmember Wahab,
Yes.
Councilmember Cermeño,
See,
Mayor Halliday.
Yes.
Thank you.
Motion carries with 7 aye votes. Hopefully, East Bay Regional and HARD will follow suit, and we will be on our way to implementing this plan. Thank you so much. And thank you, Eric. I know you did an enormous amount, so I want to particularly call you out for the work that you put in on behalf of the city of Hayward. I don't know, what will you be doing now, Eric? You know, that you don't have to do this plan, but it's the implementation. I guess that will keep you busy. So now that brings us, as I had said earlier, we have moved what was going to be item number 7 on this agenda regarding a single family home on Home Avenue in the Old Highlands area. That will be heard on March 2nd. And that brings us to comments from our city manager.
Thank you, Mayor and Council. I had a couple comments this evening. The first is that the Caltrans, in cooperation with the Alameda County Transportation Commission, as well as Hayward and Union City, we will be holding a public meeting to discuss the Interstate 880 Whipple Road Industrial Parkway interchange project. And that is going to be held on Thursday, February 18th from 5:30 to 7 p.m. It's going to be on Zoom, and it'll be a live presentation about the project and the environmental review process, and then an online Q&A session. And so the project website is www.alamedactc.org/880 Whipple Industrial. And the link to the virtual public meeting will be provided on the day of the event on that project website. So again, that's alamedactc.org/880 Whipple Industrial, all one word. And then on a more serious note, I wanted to announce an event that the library is hosting in partnership with the Hayward Arts Council and the Eden Township chapter of the Japanese American Citizens League on Saturday, February 27th. It will be a Zoom-based event in honor of the Day of Remembrance. It will be held starting at 4 p.m. The event is free, but pre-registration is required. The Day of Remembrance is an annual event in observance of the incarceration of Japanese Americans during World War II. Executive Order 9066, signed by President Franklin Roosevelt on February 19th, 1942, forcibly removed all Americans of Japanese ancestry off the West Coast. On May 8th, 1942, 600 Japanese Americans from the Hayward, San Leandro, and San Lorenzo areas were forced to leave their homes and board buses that lined on Watkins Street, and then were taken to the Tanforan Detention Center in San Bruno, and later to the Topaz incarceration camp in Delta, Utah. In October 2020, the Hayward Heritage Plaza Japanese American Art Project team issued a national call for applications for artwork to accompany a historical marker that will be installed at the Heritage Plaza across the street from the downtown library and on Watkins Street to commemorate that site of the forced removal of Japanese Americans from the Hayward community and surrounding communities. East Bay artist and historian Patricia Wakita, who was selected to design the commission work of art, and Robin Kawabata, Japanese American Art Project team lead and descendant of one of the survivors of the Tanforan Detention Center, will be among the featured speakers. And you can register at tinyurl.com/remember2021. And that is again on Saturday, February 27th, starting at 4 p.m. And information will also be available on the Hayward Library's website. And those are my comments this evening, Mayor. Thank you very much.
Thank you. And I, hope that everyone who can will tune into that that event on February 27th. It's 4 p.m. Right? Correct? Yeah. Okay. That brings us to council reports and announcements. Any Councilmember Marquez?
Thank you, Mayor. Just wanted to invite members of the public. There's going to be a community meeting on Monday, February 22nd at 6:30 p.m. And this is in regard to Patrick Avenue traffic calming improvements. You can find the link on the City of Hayward's website, but it is www.hayward-ca.gov /Patrick-traffic-calming, but it should be posted on the City of Hayward's calendar. And I know there was a lot of social media attention related to this item announcing it. So hopefully we will post it again or also look for it on council members' social media pages. But
Awesome.
Please attend and get input as well. Thank you.
Thank you. Let's see, Council Member Lamnon.
Thank you for announcing that. And also wanted to announce that AC Transit is partnering with Cal Office of Emergency Services to provide free shuttles to people who are getting vaccinated at the Coliseum mass vaccination site. And so you do need an appointment both for the vaccination, and then your proof of that appointment is what will get you onto the free shuttle. And so in order to set all of that up, go to https://myturn, myturn.ca.gov, myturn.california or ca.gov. And then I also wanted to let people know that tomorrow night, the Community Services Commission will be looking at their will start their comment period about their funding recommendations. So they'll discuss them, and then the following month they'll finalize that. And lastly, that the Housing Authority of Alameda County, in looking at its annual programs, in addition to obviously Section 8 housing that they provide, also provides a program called Family Support Services. And about 200 households a year get case management, credit counseling, job referrals, and other supports. And some of the families have seen increases in employment, gained promotions, gotten new degrees and certifications, and also been able to buy homes. So just wanted to highlight that program. Thank you.
Great, thank you. Councilmember Andrews.
Yes, I just wanted to remind people who adopt a block that you can continue to cleaning your block. Keep Hayward clean and green. We are working on events that are going to be socially distanced, but in the interim, please clean your block. Also, there's a bunch of events happening through the Hayward Library for Black History Month, so check out their website for more information. Thank you.
Thank you. And yes, getting out, getting some fresh air after the rain stops, and picking up the trash on your block is a good idea. So thanks for reminding us of that. Councilmember Wahab.
Thank you, Mayor. I just wanted to highlight, I know we've seen in the news a lot about Asian Americans and people of Asian descent actually having to, being specifically targeted and robbed. And we've seen it throughout the Bay Area. I do want to inform our larger public that the City of Hayward does stand against any type of discrimination, as well as any particular anti-Asian rhetoric. Our mayor was very gracious in supporting a resolution that purposely the entire council actually supported in any anti-Asian sentiment is not shared by this council nor by this city. If you do engage with anybody that is specifically targeting people of Asian descent, we do ask that you call first responders or 911 and definitely report the crime that you potentially witness. I know that the larger Asian community is feeling a little bit harassed and attacked, and they have shared with me that they are somewhat fearful of speaking up, but we work for you. And I want you all to know that this entire city council will stand by you. So I do want to highlight that. It's sad to see in the news, and I know that our city has been working hard to ensure that this is a safe community for everybody, including our elders, including our different demographics, and so much more. So I just wanted to highlight that, and again, appreciate all the work that the city has been doing to make sure that everybody feels included and it's an inclusive city. Thank you.
Yes, thank you for that. We are still we have a commitment to compassionate, equitable, and inclusive community. I didn't say those in the right order, but
it's long, right?
Yeah, and we do not tolerate hate crimes or or assaults of any sort on anybody. But this is something we've been reading about nationally, and I hope that it isn't happening here. It definitely shouldn't. So with that, and seeing no other announcements from council members, I will just say that our next, actually, I'll just say that the council met this past Saturday, as all of the council members know, but maybe not all the members of the public watching. There aren't that many, are there? But and I think we got a lot of work done on Saturday about how, going forward with the roadmap, strategic roadmap that we established in May of 2019, when we were still blissfully unaware of what was coming down the road. And I think that I for one was very surprised and pleased, maybe not so surprised, but pleased to see that staff actually was on track to accomplish a great deal of what we put on their plate in that May 2019 meeting, despite the fact of having to add many, many things since March of this year due to the pandemic and some of the things that have followed in the past year. So we are still on track to complete that, to address the issues raised in that roadmap. And our staff is working very hard to do that. And the council will also be meeting this coming Saturday to talk about some of our internal procedures and the way we operate. And we have a new member now. So just to try to, in this Zoom era, get to know each other a little better so we can work together better. But that will not be a regular business meeting, although I do think it will be broadcast, but we won't be actually enacting any business. Our next meeting is next week, which would be February 23rd. And so with that, happily, we have no deaths. We've had no deaths in the past week that have been brought to my attention. So we will just be having a plain old ordinary adjournment this evening. And so unless anyone else has anything to add, seeing no one, this meeting is adjourned. Thank you all.
Bye, guys. Thank you.
Good night. Bye.
Good night.